Reach for the sky, suckers. What is up, everybody? It's your buddy Brian, back for the second episode of the Spaghetti Western Jamboree. The Jamboree, where what do we talk about? We talk about spaghetti westerns, of course. Like the horror movie club stream. There's always a link to the movie in the description where you can watch it for free, uncensored. And man, right now it's a really, really good time to be a spaghetti western fan. For one thing, the DVDs and Blu-rays that are coming out are spectacular. I know that Arrow recently came out with a bunch. You got Severin doing their thing, Vinegar Syndrome. Tubi right now just had a massive, I was about to say massive dump, but really, then I was like, well, how can I clean that up? Massive load. No, let me just say a substantial number of Italian westerns have recently been uploaded on Tubi. And these are really beautiful prints. I mean, not all of them, but like certainly all of the spaghettis that are worth watching, shall I say. Beautiful widescreen prints, really a great time to be a spaghetti western fan. Back in the day, man, you only had a very limited number of these films available to you on television. Obviously, the Sergio Leone movies played all the time, right? So Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I remember seeing those on TV a lot when I was a kid. Occasionally, you might see like a Sergio Corbucci movie like The Mercenary, but never something like Django. And, never the Sartana films. The Trinity movies, which we're going to be talking about tonight, were occasionally on television. And probably the Bud Spencer and Terence Hill movies that were on TV when I was a kid the most. And most people, certainly most Americans, first encountered Bud Spencer and Terence Hill, the Team Supreme, through tonight's movie, which of course is They Call Me Trinity. Wow, this one was controversial when it came out, and but but not for the reasons that something like Django was controversial. Django, of course, blood-soaked. The spaghetti westerns, like the Leone films, for instance, in the Dollars trilogy, there's certainly a lot of humor, but it's always gallows humor. It's always black humor. And it's always paired with a heaping helping of the ultra-violence. And those films were considered, in their day, ultra-violent. Nowadays, of course, people hardly bat an eyelash because what's happening? Guys are being shot and going, oh! You know, you're not seeing big bullet holes, big giant bullet squibs, blood everywhere. You know, it's not like the Long Riders or something like that, where, you know, or the Wild Bunch by Sam Peckinpah, which are practically, especially Wild Bunch, is practically a splatter movie. It's so blood-soaked. But, you know, the spaghettis were dark. They were violent. Nobody was safe. They would murder little children. Henry Fonda in Once Upon a Time in the West as Frank Booth. His first scene in the movie, he murders a child. You couldn't do that in an American Western. Nobody would even think of doing something that fiendish. And certainly not having Henry Fonda pulling the trigger, of all people, right? Priests. If you remember the clergy in the Spaghetti West, watch out. You are not safe. You are not safe. You know, you occasionally might see priests get it in some of the American Westerns, but nowhere nearly as much as the spaghettis. In fact, very often the bad guys take a certain delight in murdering members of the clergy. And also, you know, maybe that was a little bit of the filmmakers taking out their anger on the Catholic Church, which they felt let them down because they sided with Mussolini and the fascisti. If you've never studied any Italian history, definitely read up on it a little bit. It helps you understand the Italian Westerns so much better, and the Italian horror films too. Why so much sadism? Lots of cruelty and sadism in the spaghetti westerns. And I found out that that was kind of the filmmakers' way of processing the trauma that they had experienced during World War II and living under a fascist government under Il Duce, who got his comeuppance, of course. Hey, Tommy, I see you in the chat. What up, Phil? See you in the chat. Frankie, of course. I knew I was going to see you, bro. First of all, we're talking about Italian movies. Frankie, of course, loves him. Some Italian cinema and also some Bud and Terrence. Hopefully Sim will drop by too, because I know he loves some Bud and Terrence too. And yeah, let me get into it. Because I've just been monologuing. And hopefully not in a boring way. You know, I do try to make myself useful. Let me just put it that way. And share what knowledge I've gleaned. Well, I was talking about like how hard it was to see a lot of these films when I was a kid, and how there was oh, you know what was another one they used to show on TV when I was a kid was A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die. They would show that sometimes. And that was when I started to become aware that it wasn't just Sergio Leone that was making Westerns, that there were other directors. And, you know, and later on, of course, discovered Sergio Corbucci, Sergio Sollima. It's a bit of a joke in spaghetti Western fandom circles that when you meet somebody and or if you have a friend, anybody that's interested in exploring Italian Westerns, basically what you tell them is watch any movie that's directed by a guy named Sergio, right? Because, of course, you had Sergio Leone, who did the Dollars trilogy, Duck You Sucker, Once Upon a Time in the West. You had Sergio Corbucci, who did Django, The Mercenary, Compañeros, Sonny and Jed, The Great Silence. And Sergio Sollima, who did The Big Gun Down, and also Run Man Run, which is a sequel to that. But let's see. Frankie says, I think some of those spaghetti westerns were borderline horror. Yes, they were. And the reason for that, the reason why, well, I mean, that's actually a bit of a subgenre are the horror spaghettis. That's to say, you had a lot of directors that were coming off of doing horror films, because the way it worked in the Italian film industry was the directors were workmen, very blue collar sort of an attitude. And the Italian film industry was very sort of all or nothing. When they got into a trend, they got into a trend, right? Like when they were making peplums, sword and sandal movies, they were making like almost nothing but peplums. Then they switched to Gothic horror. That was the big thing. Then they switched to the spaghettis, right, to the westerns. And then after that, the poliziotteschi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which were like the crime movies, and then back to horror again. And so you had these directors that you mainly think of as horror directors, like Lucio Fulci, directed at least 3 or 4 Italian westerns. Let's see, there was 4 of the Apocalypse, which is pretty brutal, pretty nasty. It has a little cannibalism in it. Definitely some brutal sadism. He also did Massacre Time, which also has a lot of brutality and sadism in it. And A Bullet for Sandoval, right? These are like pretty mean, nasty movies, but of course that worked in with you know, the general tone of the spaghettis. But then you get the horror spaghettis, which are like Antonio Margheriti's and God Said to Cain. That's practically a horror film with Klaus Kinski in it, no less, chewing up the scenery. Django Kill, If You Live, Shoot is widely regarded also as a horror spaghetti. That has a lot of really striking horror imagery in it. And what's Cutthroat's 9? Cutthroat's 9 is practically a splatter movie. In fact, for that, they shot extra scenes of gore, I think possibly for the Japanese market. Not entirely sure, because the Japanese, of course, ate this stuff up. And if you are a fan of movie poster art, the Japanese posters are some of the best and the most beautiful. Although the Italian posters are far away the best, because they're paintings. They're these beautiful paintings. It's not like today where, you know, you look at a movie poster and it's like some piece of shit that's some a-hole in a cubicle somewhere, just like photoshopped in like 5 minutes. Yeah, Frankie says the detective horrors were called giallo, yellow films, because in Italy, pulp fiction books had yellow covers. Yes, that is true. That is true. And actually, one thing I just recently learned is, I think I just learned this yesterday. The reason Italian comics are called fumetti is because they looked at the word balloons and thought they looked like puffs of smoke. Right? So no fumar, no fumetti. Okay. I never had that never occurred to me before. But yeah, tonight's movie really kind of signaled a sea change in the life of the Italian horror film. A lot of people felt, well, pretty pissed off. Sergio Leone and Sergio Corbucci, I know both of them were really not happy with this movie. They really kind of felt like it was, I think Corbucci actually came out and said it was a moral blow to the Italian Western. I think, you know, I got to call bullshit on that. You know, much respect to you, Sergio's, you know, not to diss on you or anything. But I was talking about this with Phil before today, that very often a genre is clearly like in the decline when it switches to satire, right? When it devolves into satire. You look at the American horror movies of the 80s, for instance, and those just got goofier and goofier and goofier. Best example, of course, is the Evil Dead trilogy, which the first movie is just a balls-out horror movie, maybe a teeny bit of humor, but just brutal and out to get you. Then Evil Dead 2, which is like almost a comedy with some horror elements. And then you get Army of Darkness, which really is not a horror movie even in the slightest. It's just a pure parody at that point. Of course, the best example right now that we have right in front of us are the freaking Marvel movies, right? When those started getting goofier and goofier, I think with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, they actually were doing reshoots to make the movie goofier. They felt that like the third act was a little too serious. And so they're like, no. Well, people aren't coming to the movies to see a fantasy adventure. Then, they're not coming to see superheroes, kick bad guys in the ass. They're coming to laugh. And I think that might partly be true, but you got to give people a little something more than what they're getting. I mean, if you've seen that MODOK, man, I think that will be remembered as the death knell of the Marvel superhero movies. I mean, not to say that these characters are going anywhere. They'll be around and they'll be hitting the reboot button periodically, and that, and boy, they need to hit that sucker fast. But yeah, Frankie says everybody I know in Italy smokes. This is all right. Non sequitur. I've never been to Italy. My parents lived in Italy and both spoke fluent Italian. They were moved there by my father's company, Mercedes-Benz, and they lived in Roma. And my father actually went to TRINITY studios where they were shooting peplums. And so if you were a tourist or a businessman or just like fucktard off the street, they would let you in to watch a movie being shot. First of all, they were shooting without sound, but they also didn't want to be distracted. So they only had one rule, and that was silencio. But you could hang out and watch like Steve Reeves like throw around, styrofoam boulders or paper mache boulders, I should say. Let's see. Let me bring up tonight's movie because, wow. Yeah, the Italian Westerns did get goofy after, not so much after the first Trinity movie, but it was the sequel, Trinity Is Still My Name, that really kind of made the film producers go, okay, the people want the comedy, so now we make Western comedy. There were still a few outliers. There were still a few of what I and some other people refer to as the Twilight spaghettis. These are Italian Westerns that were made like in the late 70s. They have a very elegiac tone and feel to them. Good examples of that are Koepp. That's considered the last great Italian Western. California, that's a really good one. Menage, A Man Called Blade, that's also pretty good. If you're a fan, I always tell people that if you are interested in exploring this subgenre, always start out with the Leone movies because they are clearly the best. But one of the reasons I'm not going to talk too much about the Leone movies on this live stream is because they've been discussed to death, right? Got a couple books here that I recommend. 10,000 God, I can't even speak today. 10,000 Ways to Die by Alex Cox, who was the director of Repo Man. And this is basically his senior thesis at film school, but cleaned up. Like, I remember downloading a PDF of this in its raw form, I don't know, 20 years ago. This is an excellent volume, highly recommended. And this is really the best resource for non-Leone spaghettis, because the main book that had been written was Sir Christopher Frayling wrote a book called Something to Do with Death. And that goes into Leone's films. And so these books touch upon the Leone movies, but they don't go deep into them. They focus their attention on the non-Leone spaghettis, which deserve so much attention because, my goodness, there are some great films in here. But the best thing about this book, you can tell it's like falling apart. And the binding's pretty good, too. It has a glossary in the back of spaghetti Western character actors. So you ever thought, because you're going to see a lot of the same faces in these films, especially in the background, especially the bad guys and the bad guys' goons, right? Because a lot of those cats were Spanish stuntmen. And those dudes were freaking lunatics, like, savages. That would, I mean, if you look at the stunt work in some of these films, it's pretty damn impressive. But let me bring up tonight's movie. There's a Japanese poster for it. Trinity is, they call me Trinity. I almost said Trinity is still my name. So you got a good shot of our hero, Terrence Hill. And of course, one of the things I always do is I always try to find fan art. This is a pretty good example. Here's the German poster. Die rechte und die linke Hand des Teufels. The right and the left hands of the devil. Which are actually what the characters are known as in this film. Terrence Hill, that's a rather novel spelling. Terrence Hill and Bad Spencer. I think this might be from, I don't know where this is from. I know you can buy it on eBay. It's like one of the things I always do is I go to eBay to find the dope foreign posters. Here's a modern poster. That's okay. And here is one of the Italian posters. Oh yeah, check these out. These are Bud Spencer, Terrence Hill, Trinity, and Bambino action figures. I can't say I'm really crazy about the sculpts, especially the Bud. The Bud doesn't look too good, but still, the fact that these even exist is kind of awesome. Terrence is a little more on point. There's an American poster. So, where do I start with Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill? Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill were a comedy duo, kind of an action comedy duo that kind of picked up from where I think the big duo was. I'm not familiar with these movies at all, but there was a comedy duo called Franco and Ciccio. In fact, I think they made a goofy spaghetti Western at some point. And Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer had been in a trilogy of Westerns before the Trinity films. The first one, all three directed by Giuseppe Colizzi. And they played these two characters named Cat Stevens and Hutch. Now, if you're thinking Cat Stevens, that sounds familiar. Isn't there like a pop star that was named Cat Stevens and then changed his name to Yusuf Islam? Yes. He got his name from Terrence Hill's character in God Forgives, I Don't. So that was a hit. And then they went on to make Ace High, which is fantastic. And Boot Hill was the last in the series, which isn't as good as Ace High, but is still a really solid spaghetti. Terrence Hill's real name was Mario Girotti, and he was born to a Italian father and a German mother. He was born in Venice. During World War II, his parents decided to send him to his mother's family in Germany because of the bombing that was happening in Italy. Where was his mother's family? Where did his parents send him to get away from the bombing? Dresden. The largest mass killing in human history. Yeah, he survived the Dresden bombing, which is, oh man, he must have had a guardian angel looking out for him. He was kind of like a handsome, blue-eyed leading man, kind of like a Franco Nero. In fact, he starred in a Django ripoff, and it was called Django Prepare a Coffin. And I got a little clip of it right. Actually, I have a clip not of the movie, but you get a nice shot of the poster art and the music. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar to you. Yeah. Ringing any bells? Maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, dude, this is the riff from that Gnarls Barkley song. Got it. Anyway, I love playing that. It's a great piece of music. So he wasn't exactly a comedy actor out the gate. Neither was Bud Spencer. But they had a very special chemistry, which we will be getting into. Now, Bud Spencer was the stage name of a Carlo Pedersoli. And Carlo was an Olympic swimmer from Napoli. And he was in the Olympics, but his team lost that year. And the next year, the Italian team won. And he wasn't on that team, so he was butthurt about that for like the rest of his life. But he went into acting after his career as an athlete was over, and there was something about him and Terence Hill. There was a special chemistry there, and Terence Hill himself said that big screen couples are rare because they can't be manufactured. That's to say, you could throw Jackie Chan together with Chris Tucker or whoever, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get anything special. It's something that can't be. You can't fake the funk, is what I'm saying. And these guys had the funk to the nth degree. They just. There was something about them that just clicked. And so I think if I were to venture a guess, they must have made at least about 20 movies together. And then they would do solo films too. Buddy Goes West. That's a really good, post Trinity spaghetti Western with Bud Spencer. Yes, that's right. I'm sorry. Thank goodness I have my notes tonight. This is me without my ADD medication. So, first of all, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out. We really, really do appreciate you. I see Pops. What's up? And Frankie says, Franco and Ciccio, the Sicilian comedy duo. Yeah, that's right. I remember reading that. I have no experience with them whatsoever. Like, I know of them. Franco and Frankie did a comedy set in the streets of my parents' hometown in Sicily. No shit. That's pretty cool. And then Phil says, reminds me of the Ecstasy of Gold too. Yeah, basically with the Italian Westerns, you had, I think, 3 composers. Naturally, Ennio Morricone, and then you had Louis Bacalov, and I'm spazzing on the third guy. Sometimes, and Morricone was so busy with soundtracks that sometimes he would write them, but he didn't have the time to actually conduct them. So Louis Bacalov ended up conducting a lot of Morricone's music. And what up, Tommy? Good to see you, brother, man. Much love to you and your love spuds. Love spuds. Now, if they lose, you gotta wonder, What gender beat him? Oh my god. Yeah, don't even get me started on that, man. You're gonna have boxing's gonna be brutal, man. Boxing's gonna really be brutal. Oh god. Yeah, somebody's gonna get hurt. I think some chick already got her skull cracked, if I'm not mistaken. But Enzo Barboni had directed a really good spaghetti, like an excellent tragic one called Chuck Mool, which is also basically an amnesia thriller set in the Spaghetti West. Very, very good. I like that one a lot. And what he wanted to do was he wanted to do an Italian Western where the ultra-violent, absurdist gallows humor was kind of replaced by just straight-up comedy. So what he did was he turned up the comedy and he turned down the violence. Now, there is some violence in They Call Me Trinity. I mean, he is blasting mofos in this. He is killing people. He's not just shooting guns out of people's hands. But Barboni wanted to do a straight comedy as opposed to a Western with some comedic elements because he found the whole idea of the Italian Western completely bonkers. The way he described the spaghetti was tripping over my tongue here. He described the Spaghetti West as an imitation of a world that Italians had dreamt of, but that wasn't their own. I have to point out that the Italians made them their own, especially with their flair for the operatic. But that was also why you got the term spaghetti Western. Spaghetti Western was, here in America anyway, kind of a pejorative term. They were making fun of the fact that the Italians were making Westerns. I think, maybe part of that also had to do with the fact that they eventually started making them better than we Americans are making them. They revitalized the genre, is what I'm saying, completely. And my goodness, there were quite a few American Italian co-productions, and a lot of American actors that ended up in Italian Westerns. But the Trinity movies are mocking not just the American Westerns, they're mocking the Italian Westerns too. So let's see here. Oh yeah, that's another detail. Sorry, people, I'm checking my notes. The Trinity movies were labeled Fagioli Westerns because of the epic amount of beans that these guys knock back. Oh my God, you do not want to be in an eating contest with Terrence Hill and beans are on the table. Terrence Hill could knock back some beans, like massive quantities. But let's take a quick look at a trailer. Or actually, not a trailer, but actually a first scene in the movie. So when the credits open, we see it gives you an idea of the laid back nature of these films. You see a pistol being dragged on the ground, and you see boots without feet in them dragging, and then you see our glorious hero, riding not on horseback but on a litter that's being drawn by a horse. He's like such a lazy motherfucker. He's just like taking a nap and rather than actually riding a horse properly. But that's the thing about Trinity. He gives zero fucks, and that's one of the reasons that you love him. So yeah, it's a wonderful scene where the horse is dragging him through the desert. Then they get to some water, and then the horse is dragging him through the water, and he doesn't even wake up. And then, back into the desert. Oh, and I should mention Bud Spencer. He took his stage name from his favorite actor, who was Spencer Tracy. While the Italians, didn't have, obviously, the history of the Old West, they grew up with Westerns. The whole world grew up with Westerns. And, it was inevitable that they would take a crack Yeah, you can tell that this is from a German print. With a lot of the Blu-rays these days, they'll this is in English, but I think they took like the English audio and matched it with a German print. Die rechte und die linke Hand des Teufels, the right and the left hands of the devil, which are Trinity and Bambino, who we will be meeting, and Ibi Klucher. Ibi Klucher was Enzo Barboni's nom de plume, his pseudonym, which a lot of Italian directors had. Antonio Margheriti had Anthony M. Dawson. Mario Bava had Jonathan Old. Trying to remember some of the other ones too. Luigi Cozzi. Oh, I forget Luigi Cozzi's because he had a pretty funny one too. And Bruno Mattei had one. I always thought that they changed the names to kind of make the movie seem more American for an American audience. They actually did that to make the film seem more American for the Italian audience, which I found really interesting. And so our glorious hero arrives in town. He's just like a complete dirtbag. I mean, he's like Pigpen for the Charlie Brown cartoons with the Peanuts. And so he walks into this place, a little place where you can get something to eat and something to drink. And he sees these two bounty hunters with a prisoner. And Terrence, of course, begins to do what Terrence Hill does best, which is when he's not demolishing rooms full of suckers, he's knocking back gigantic, epic amounts of fagioli, of beans. And so these guys are just watching him, just like the way he's pounding these beans is just extreme. And, he takes like a little break, to knock back some whiskey. And so this guy comes over and, certainly not intimidated by him, right? That ain't hunger, that's famine. Usually happens when you cross the desert on the run, right? So he's thinking like, looks like another bounty just walked into the room. And I believe I have the scene right here. Yeah, because I had to grab a video clip of this because I tried doing snapshots and it really did not work. Because hey, Trinity is fast. Blink and you'll miss it when he draws his gun.
I have another half inch and got there for good. Yeah. Hey, hurry up with them big.
Damn right, Frankie. Damn right. No dish. Straight out of the pan. Straight out of the pan, right into his gullet. Right down his gullet. Right into his belly. Cut out the middleman.
If you got the money to pay, I'll give you a plate of beans.
Oh, and Tommy says, I think of these types of movies, and one name pops in my head, Lee Van Cleef. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. One of the movies that we are going to be definitely taking a look at on the stream is a personal favorite of mine, Sabata. And, A Day of Anger. That's a really good one, too, with him and Giuliano Gema. That's a must-see. I'm telling you, like all these movies are on Tubi now. It's fantastic. It's the best time ever. If you've ever been curious about Italian Westerns, you can just dive right in.
Listen, dear, will you?
So what's on your conscience, huh?
I just love how this guy's like menacing him, and he just keeps chewing.
You better check twice. He's pretty dirty.
Yeah, that he is.
Dang like a puppet. Yeah.
So he sees these guys. They've got a prisoner. It's some poor Mexican guy that they shot in the arm. The story he tells is that some gringo tried to RIP his wife, so he defended himself, but he's Mexican, so he's not really allowed to do that sort of a thing. He's a Mexican who killed like a white man, so he's got to go. And so the Trinity character is a great one, because the thing about him is, yes, he is the devil's right hand, and he is the fastest gun in the West, pretty much, and a stone killer. But he also has a heart of gold, and I think that that's what really makes the I think that the Trinity ripoffs missed a lot of that. They just sort of imitated the comedy and not the relationship between the two brothers who couldn't be more different.
Say, come on, get up.
You know, Sage, least you can do for a man who wants to die is to wish him a cross with his name on it. You just give him your name. You get one.
They call me Trinity.
Oh shit.
Trinity?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, and yeah, and Phil says also best song. Which has the best song, do you think? That's certainly not this one. I actually think that the song that is in They Call Me Trinity is way better.
What do I owe you?
Nothing. On the house.
Thanks. The beans weren't much good anyway.
Right, so it looks like he's on his way out, but he's taking somebody with him. He's taking their prisoner, and so you think that he's stealing their bounty, basically.
Is that what they say?
yeah.
Jeez.
Say you got the fastest gun around.
Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So these fools are thinking, what are they going to do? They're going to try to bushwhack him. See ya! Yeah. Just in case you missed it.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, Chico.
Blast it. Yeah, so, Trinity's a guy who's not looking for violence, but if you want to be violent, he can be violent too. Admiral Wackass, what is up, brother? Good to see you, man. Everybody that's hanging out, thank you so much. I can't believe, last week's stream got some crazy amount of views, 2.6 thousand? That's insane. I don't know if the fandom for these films is growing. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they are imitated a lot, and I always think imitating the spaghettis is a mistake, because you're never going to recapture that time, that place. Italian movies being made in Almeria, Spain, in the 60s and the early 70s. You're never going to be able to recapture that. Although you certainly see the influence in a lot of stuff, which is perfectly fine. It's just when Americans try making modern spaghettis, it always falls flat for me. So Trinity goes to the nearest town, where he finds his brother Bambino hanging out, and he is the local sheriff. Why? Because he killed the new sheriff when he was on his way to the town. I forget for what reason. I do think he does get into it. And so he puts on the tin star and takes the man's place. Because, Bambino's a criminal and has a gang, and a lot of outlaws at one point or another in the Old West were on the other side of that badge. most famously, mysterious David Mather, who was a lineal descendant of Cotton Mather, the witch trial guy, Salem. And he spent half of his life behind the badge as a lawman, and the other half running from it. And he would switch back and forth too. So it's not really a preposterous statement at all. I mean, even Wyatt Earp did some criminal stuff. I think he got busted for selling painted bricks to cowboys, telling them that they were gold. And so, yeah, here we have our villain. The plot to this is razor thin. It's really something to hang the characters and the humor off of. It's the standard range war plot. The range war plot is probably most famously depicted in Shane, right? Where you have some rich bad guy who believes that the land belongs to him, by divine right, and is hell-bent on driving, settlers off of the land so he can have it all, whether it's for grazing or whether there's gold there. If or in Once Upon a Time in the West, if the railroad is coming through, that changes, but it's still basically the same plot. And in this, we have the major here, who is very he has a big herd of horses, and there are a bunch of Mormons that are camped out on his land, and building houses and ready to settle down, and he ain't having it. So naturally, he's got a bunch of goons, but they're going up against Bud and Terrence. They're going up against Trinity and Bambino. It's not going to end well for them. And this right here pretty much just sums up their relationship, right? It's like they haven't seen each other in however many years, probably. And Trinity is just like grinning at him, and Bambino is just like, oh, Christ, not this motherfucker again. Oh, man. It's that relationship that is the key to these movies. Trinity is always coming up with these harebrained schemes that he ropes Bambino into them, making him think that there's a pile of loot waiting for both of them if they pull off that caper, right? And only to discover at the end that Trinity just basically swindled him into doing a good deed. And so, he's just like, dude, you screw up my plans every time. He's just like, so when he sees him, he's just like, good to see you. Get the hell out of my town. And they're just hanging out. Trinity and the Mexican homeboy, and Bambino just stretches these dudes. It's they don't stand a chance, because while Trinity is the right hand of the devil, Bambino is the left hand of the devil, as Trinity points out. So they bring in the Mexican dude. And you thought that maybe Trinity was just kidnapping him for the bounty money. No, not at all. Does he look like somebody who cares about money? He doesn't. And they end up liquoring him up and pulling the bullet out of his arm and throwing his ass into a cell to sleep it off. Yeah, so Bambino has just escaped from the penitentiary in Yuma Penitentiary. No fucking joke. They would work you to death, literally. Not the place you would want to be in the Old West, for damn sure. And so, yeah, Bambino explains that he saw somebody following me, and it turned out that the guy wasn't following him. They were just going the same way, but he shot him, And then he found out that the guy was a sheriff and that he was on his way to this town to replace the sheriff that the bad guys had killed previously. Right. I planned a couple of good holdups, but I bet you'll manage to mess things up on me. I don't know how, but I'm sure you'll do it. Goddamn right you will. He's like, see you later. No, you're not going to see me later. And then, Trinity gets himself into a bathtub, and I think it takes like 6 bars of soap before you can see his skin. And so the deputy sheriff basically gives us the info dump that the major wants this land, and he's trying to drive the Mormons off of it. Now, the Mormons did face a lot of prejudice, and there was, of course, a really famous massacre of the Mormons. But one of the things that Mark Twain said was he has a great book. If you want a good research book on the Old West, check out Roughing It by Mark Twain. It's about him basically doing a coach ride through the Wild West. And he says that the reason, and I'm not Mormon bashing here, okay? This is just what he said. At that time, there was a lot of resentment towards the Mormons, not because they were gobbling up all the women, and when women were very scarce in the Old West, it was how they treated their women that they didn't like. And, but regardless, certainly the Mormons in this story are kind, upstanding people. Right. Yeah. So Trinity is already like, this dude wants to hog up the whole valley for his horses. And, Bambino, of course, not interested until he thinks to himself, well, wait a second. What about that herd of horses? Right. Yeah. And, Trinity's trying to get him like, hey, well, this isn't fair. These people are being, fucked with and oppressed, and we should do something. And so Bambino's talking about like how his gang is waiting for him. They're waiting to catch up with them, or he's waiting for them rather. He's sitting in the town waiting for his boys Weasel and Timmy to show up, but at the same time he has to admit that there's something about this injustice that rankles him. And yeah, he mentions because 2 feet this side of the valley, he has the most beautiful pack of horses I ever seen. And Trinity, of course, is just like, got him. Because, he realizes that appealing to Bambino's a better nature isn't going to work. What up, Dillard?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, dude, I didn't leave you waiting too long, did I?
Nah, just like 17, 18 minutes.
Oh, goddamn. Yeah, I was probably yapping so much I didn't hear that dink.
Yeah, you were lost in this guy's beautiful blue eyes.
They are sexy, aren't they?
How do they, I don't know, blue eyes creep me out.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, here, look at this. Look at these.
Dude, I'm like a Mexican, right, that grew up in Southern California. I've never seen a pair of blue eyes until I was like 23 years old.
Oh, wow. So it must have been very striking to you.
I was like, what are you, an alien? I was like, don't you get like sunburn all easy?
Oh, dude, I'm German. So like I always say, I'm not white. I'm translucent. I do not.
Like those eyes, because you can see when you look at somebody who has those beaming pale blue eyes, like you can see all the way into the iris area. It looks so weird.
Yeah.
So it looks like they have no protection at all.
Well, he was Italian and German. I'm guessing his father was probably Northern Italian. And he spoke fluent German and also fluent English. Like, he actually kind of, like, he wanted to break into the movies in America.
I hate hearing about people that are smarter than I am and speak languages.
Right? I know. Well, look, we're Americans. We're monolingual. Right? And in Europe, imagine if the United States, every state had a different language.
Yeah, I would never leave California.
I mean, just look at the size of Texas. You can squeeze practically all of Europe just into Texas. It's insane.
What a face this guy has. He has a very likable face.
Very much so. He had mad crazy charisma, and
he looks like Viggo Mortensen, but without the stink.
Well, the thing that's really crazy is that he is still with us. And Frankie said last week in the Django stream that he just wrapped up season 13 of Don Mateo, which is a TV series where he plays a priest who's solving mysteries and murders and that kind of a thing.
Everybody needs a hobby, I guess.
Well, dude, the guy is still good looking. I mean, I remember we were watching one of an episode of that with my girlfriend, and she was like, "Oh my God, he's a G-DILF." Right? It's just like, if you were a woman in your 60s or 70s, let me put it this way, you would be psyched to come home to that. So what he looks like now. The guy just never ages. I mean, he's aged, but he does not look his age at all.
No, he really doesn't.
Yeah. Bud really didn't age as well. I mean, look, genetics is part of it. Also, whether you take care of yourself, whether you get enough sleep, whether you're partying a lot. When I look at a guy like that that's in his 80s and still looks amazing, I just think one thing. I think clean living.
Is that what you think it is? I can't believe that.
You never know, though. You never know. William S. Burroughs was was slamming heroin and smoking Camel unfiltered cigarettes from the time he was 15. He lived to be in his late 80s.
Yeah, it's got to just be genes. I think if you were meant to live, you're gonna live.
Oh, I believe that too. But then again, I believe in destiny and fate and all that stuff.
What?
Yeah, man.
I feel like for instance, you said he smoked Camel non-filtered, right? There's some people that are just, they're gonna smoke and they're not gonna get cancer.
Yes.
It's just not in their genes.
Yes.
There's just way too many stories of people pushing 105 and they've been smoking their whole lives,
Yeah, Admiral Wackass points out it's practical to know German, Spanish, and English. I totally agree. They're used, and those are very practical languages. They're used in the largest amount of countries. So when they would go on press junkets to promote their movies, Terrence Hill spoke fluent English. Bud Spencer, not so much. Bud Spencer actually missed out on playing Bluto in Popeye.
Yeah, but that's not his real name, right? He changed his name?
Yeah. His real name, let me check my notes. I believe
this is that dude that's famous for the members only jackets, right?
Well, there's one in which he's wearing a satin baseball jacket, and on the back of it, it says Jumbo. Which is that odds and evens? I forget, because I get their comedies mixed up, right? Because this is the first of their just straight up comedies. Yeah, Carlo Pedersoli. And he chose the name Bud Spencer because his favorite actor was Spencer Tracy.
Right, because he was. Right. I think he got really famous. I'm not, because the thing is this, right? I'm not a spaghetti western guy, but I know some things because I know that this guy was in a movie, one of those cowboy comedy movies with that guy that was pulling out the gun and then slapping the guy and holstering his gun back and pulling it out again. That got really famous 2 years ago. Just the first time I heard of this guy.
It's amazing. Well, I mean, that's the beautiful thing is now this stuff is so readily available, people can just stumble across it. Which is
that's
great.
Me. I stumble across things.
Yep.
I don't have direction in my life.
Yeah, you and me both, brother. Frankie says he had a little bit of a dispute with the Don Mateo crew, and he only did 4 episodes on the last season, replaced by Raul Bova. Bova was flat. Yeah, I would not want to have to follow Terrence Hill. That's for damn sure.
Oh no! Hey, I'm gonna have to go.
What? It's okay.
They started up the tractor, and they're gonna be right here by the room. There's no way I'm gonna be able to stream with you. I just heard the tractor start up right now.
It's okay. You can come and go as you please. This is a casual stream.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. Thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it.
I'll see you later, man.
You're good. Peace. That bastard. That backstabbing, no good, sidewinding. No. No, much love to you, Dillard. Thank you for dropping in. And Frankie says, I think Terrence still has a home in Boston. You fucking shitting me? Oh my God. Like, yeah, I don't know if I'd want to meet him because he's one of those people where I think I would get starstruck. Funny story about Bud Spencer. Keep in mind, I haven't even discussed this yet. Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill went on to become pretty much the biggest movie stars in the world at a certain time, right? In the late 60s and throughout the 70s, early 80s. They ruled the international box office. Not so much in America, but elsewhere, Europe and Asia, yeah. That's because their comedy was it translated, right? Slapstick comedy, for instance, always translates. And the Italian comedies are very much inspired by a lot of the silent movies, like Laurel and Hardy, for instance. I know that Enzo Barboni, aka E.B. Klutcher, the director of the Trinity films, said he drew a lot of inspiration from Chaplin and Buster Keaton and Laurel and Hardy, all those cats. Because remember, they grew up, watching these movies. And so here the Major comes to flex on the Mormons. And then it turns out that the Mormons aren't the only one. I mean, that the Major and his goons aren't the only ones that are messing with the Mormons. They're pacifists, so they won't defend themselves. And there are some Mexican banditos also that are just basically using them as a all-you-can-eat buffet. Not that they're eating the Mormons; they're eating the Mormons' food. They're coming in and practically clearing them out, making life difficult for them, and let's say taking advantage of their generosity. And of course, Trinity sees this shit, and he ain't having it. And one of the Mormons gets thrown out of the dry goods store because the Major has arranged it so that they can't buy anything in the town. And it doesn't hurt that this fellow has 2 smoking hot daughters. And so, Trinity ain't having that. And he proceeds to... let me see if his pistol tricks are just completely ridiculous. The slap video that Dillard was talking about, you should probably take a look at that too, which isn't in this movie, but it's in another. Right. So let's take another look at They Call Me Trinity. God, I can't speak tonight. And if the stream gets jacked, it gets jacked. I don't care. It'll be there for the replay.
Never a night something.
Yeah, Frankie says Bud had a fearlessness about him. Yeah, because he was pretty much like invulnerable, like the Thing. They're like, I always love it in these movies. This is the first one where you see it, where guys are just laying into him, just hitting him, and he's just kind of like shaking their blows off. Like, yeah, what? He doesn't look hurt. He looks annoyed. Right. So Bud had this fearlessness about him, and Terrence had the wise guy and lucky swagger in most of these films, without a doubt.
I don't think I like that.
What did you say about my old lady?
You itching to start a fight.
I asked you a question. What did you say about my old lady?
Now, here, old lady means mother. I believe. Not like biker old lady.
You heard it.
Well, say it again. Don't be afraid.
Afraid of you?
He's like, hey, man, why should I be afraid of you? I'm mobbed up over here. Yeah, guess what? Being mobbed up isn't going to be too much of a advantage.
Afraid you got more cheek than brain, idiot.
Right, so then the deputy, of course, slips off to let Bambino know, yeah, your brother's, like, starting trouble again.
Law! It's me! But they'll make a sieve out of it if you don't hurry!
Yeah, Frankie says, Bud's finishing move, the hammer punch down on somebody's head. Yes, the patented hammer blow. the Bud Spencer special, I always call it. Yeah, where he just pounds motherfuckers into the ground like tent pegs.
Yeah. 7 of us, deputy, and you're only holding 6 bullets in your gun. Now, I don't know if I make myself clear.
Better pay your bar bill now. Don't want to leave any debts behind. Now, I don't know if I made myself clear.
Of course, if this stream gets yanked, it's especially going to piss me off because I believe this film is in the public domain. I have like a couple. I think there were a couple of. I think this was one of those movies that when DVDs first became a thing, there you saw a lot of DVDs from different manufacturers selling these movies because they were in the public domain.
What's going on here?
Which means I could do a Bud and Terrence comic book, maybe. Or a Trinity comic. Trinity and Bambino comic. Oh, my God.
They offended the law.
No.
Yes. They said I was a son of a no.
Oh, shit.
That is serious. How are we going to settle that, boys?
If you
And, of course, when people say that their mother was a ho-ho-ho, they're actually right. And they're half-brothers. They share the same mother and different fathers.
didn't care to hide behind that piece of tin, we could settle this among...
But yeah, that's one of the things I love about these movies is that what Barboni is kind of saying with them, I think, is that at least this is how other people have interpreted it, and I think they're accurate, which is that you can't pick your family, but you have to stand by your family.
Aren't you going to take it off?
No.
And so they're piling up their guns on the deputy so they can have a good old-fashioned fist fight.
Lock it.
Yeah, check this out. I would say that this is the first scene in the Bud Spencer Terrence Hill movies where they're like cleaning out a room full of goons, just regulating on people.
You gonna handle it alone?
I just woke up. You take your share.
Wasn't a very bright idea, my friend.
All right, now you're going to get a good look at the invulnerability of Bud Spencer. I think he's one of those dudes like the wrestler Haku, where like even if you shot him, it would probably just make him angry. Yeah, and Trinity's just hanging out because he's already laid out his goons. Boom! Double Bud Spencer. And notice how he sticks his bottom lip out. Yeah, baby. And of course, he's just looking at Trinity, very annoyed. Now watch this. This dude punches him like in the chest, and he just kind of like, you know, just the expression on his face is priceless. See ya. Yeah. Bud Spencer has like 2 moves, and both of them hurt.
No.
Can I go to bed, or you got something else planned for tonight?
Well.
Oh, great shit, man. Great stuff. Great stuff. Yeah, so, yeah, he's like, I left you alone for 2 hours, man. Just 2 hours. Oh, yes, yeah. And then there's, there's a little bit of a gunfight, right, where he's talking to the major, and this guy creeps up on him. Boom! See ya! Just like shoots him, sends him sailing through the window without even turning his back. He shoots this guy in the balls. One store destroyed. 3 heads split like overripe melons. 1 man wounded and 1 man castrated. All in 2 hours. Just 2 hours. I left you alone. Yeah, he can't help it. He's just always getting into shit. And then he's talking about the girls, the Mormon girls. You know, he's just, you know, digging on them. And then, of course, we always, you know, there's a scene in the Range War movie where, like in Shane, for instance, where the bad guy calls in a gunslinger to fight the gunslinger, right? Calls in a bad guy to fight the good guy. You know, the old hired gun. In Shane, for instance, that hired gun was played by Jack Palance. The major gets these 2 dudes, and Trinity is unimpressed. To say the least. Yeah, let me give you a look at that. Everybody in the chat, by the way, thank you so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate you greatly. Let's see here. Yeah. And you got the ominous music. These guys are death dealers. And Trinity looks like he's almost like licking his chops. Like he just can't wait to like mess with these guys. Yeah, so they corner him in the dry goods store at the Mercantile.
Good day, Mortimer.
They all got stamped. Yeah, hell yeah, they did. Yeah, he's letting these fools know he's not intimidated by them, right? You know, they got the gunslinger outfits and everything. They're very much rocking that aesthetic. Yeah, Frankie says, so funny to see Terrence so dirty yet plays the coolest cat in the alley. Yeah. No, I mean, he's wearing like these filthy overalls. I mean, not overalls. Oh God, the long johns, right? It's underwear. He's walking around. It's the top. It's underwear, and it's all around the collar. It's all black. It looks like it's been burned, but it looks all greasy and everything. You know, he must stink to like high heaven. Certainly, he threw his dirty ass into a bathtub, but I don't think he went to the laundromat. Let's put it that way. Union suit, Admiral Jackass says. Interesting.
Anything in particular you're interested in?
Yeah. Would you mind showing me your underwear?
Ask and ye shall receive.
Hey, what about the horses? There's no time! He said 10 seconds!
Bitches! Oh, man. Yeah, oh, man, I love these movies. I heartily recommend it. Definitely check it out. Link is in the description below. These are really, really fun movies. After the success of They Call Me Trinity, I'm sorry, after the success of the sequel to They Call Me Trinity, Trinity Is Still My Name, that blew up so huge that they went on making movies together for like 20 years. And but this was, I wouldn't say it was their last Western, because they actually did do one, I think in the 90s. It wasn't very good, unfortunately. Kind of, not that it was like horrible, not that it was like an embarrassment. And those two always had great screen chemistry together. But the movie just wasn't up to it. One of the things that's also interesting about Terence Hill is one of the big influences on this movie was a French comic strip called Lucky Luke. And Terence Hill did end up actually playing Lucky Luke in a series of TV movies that were directed by Ted Nicolau, who horror fans would know for the subspecies theories. Excuse me, I gotta wet my whistle. What up, Admiral Jackass? Did they gank me? That's okay, because that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this stream, is because I have the freedom to show movie clips as much as I like, and if they yank me off the air, they yank me off the air. I'm just here to have fun and talk about these movies, because they are really terrific, and you folks ought to check them out. Oh yeah, this is a great scene right here. I had trouble capturing this, but so homeboy comes across the Mormon sisters bathing. Right now, what man doesn't look at a scene like that and and feel like I just walked into heaven? Well, I mean, you've had more chicks in there than, but, that's, got to be something that goes back to when we were cavemen. There's something about watching pretty girls frolicking in the water. And so he's checking them out, and they're inviting him in. And he just does like the studliest thing. He like goes in with his horse, and then he stands up. Terence Hill was one of those guys like Giuliano Jama that had 6 strength and could be very acrobatic, because he and Jama were guys that grew up watching movie stars like Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas and wanted to be like those guys. And those guys were intensely physical. So, yeah, he just stands up in the saddle and just goes and just falls into the water. That's some manly shit right there. That's a Terence Hill movie is what that is. Yeah, so the Major realizes that things are not working out in his favor, and so he goes to the leader of the Mexican bandidos, Mezcal is his name. And Trinity is trying to teach the Mormons how to fight, how to defend themselves. Oh, oh, that's a really good scene. Yeah. Yeah, where Bambino says, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at our ma. She should have strangled you or at least drowned you when you were born. Why, you no good crawling son of a lowdown. Yeah, he's just mad at him. Let's take a look at a at another clip from They Call Me Trinity, because it's a pretty sweet one, if I recall rightly.
Brother Tobias!
Now, okay, look. You never invite Bud and Terrence to dinner, because they're going to eat all the fucking food. It's eating machines, and they're rocking the Mormon hats and everything. They're ready, to enlist. Well, not really, of course. Bambino thinks that ultimately, by siding with the Mormons, he's going to get his hands on that 20 head of cattle that belongs to
Sisters Lee,
the major.
quickly.
Uh-oh, I hear mariachi music. That means the Mexicans are coming. I wonder if Mexican people back then just carried mariachi bands around.
I beg you to forgive their rudeness. They're like misguided children who know not what they do.
Yeah, and of course, the leader of the Mormons is very forgiving, perhaps a little too much, but this is just great. And Mezcal, of course, he loves the fact that he can just pick on these people and they won't defend themselves. There was a scene actually like this. I don't know if this inspired a particular scene in Peter Weir's Witness, which had Harrison Ford in it. But it wouldn't surprise me. These were very, very popular.
No, don't insist, brother. I don't like to take advantage of your hospitality every day.
Thank you, Brother Mescal.
Tommy says, I want to fight a mariachi band. I went to a fight and a mariachi band broke out.
You're always welcome to share our table.
Ah, see? Well, then we take advantage.
Oh, yeah. Funny little factoid. There are a lot of Mexican characters in the Italian Westerns. There's only one time that you had a Mexican character in an Italian Western that was played by an actual Mexican. I think it was Roland Martin, who, I might be messing up his name, but it's in Any Gun Can Play. Fernando Sancho is probably the best known of the Mexican Bandito characters. He's in a lot of these. And there was Aldo Sombrero. He also played this character a lot.
Hey, why don't you remind me to take off my holster? Don't you know?
Yeah, actually, you learn something every day. Like, for instance, I learned that sombrero just means hat.
Where's the wine? Hijos de puta! Get them in line! Vamos, cabrón! You too!
Yeah. So these scumbags are just having fun, laying out these Mormons. Because they won't fight back.
Brothers. Ask forgiveness.
Forgiveness, please.
Hey, where are you?
Of course, Trinity can't just stand by and let this go down, And Bambino naturally tries to reel him in.
Turn the other cheek.
Yeah, fuck having to pause like every 11 seconds. If I get yanked, I get yanked.
This one is new to me. He's very pretty. Like this.
Pretty wouldn't exactly be the name for for Bud. Ominous, maybe?
You give me room.
Invulnerability is a hell of a superpower.
Patron?
Yeah, you do not want to get into a slap fight with these dudes. That's for damn sure. Oh yeah. Here it goes.
Oh, bueno. Come on, it's easy.
So now Mezcal, of course, is very, very confused. He's very, very confused because, you know, the Mormons aren't supposed to hit back.
We go bueno, Brother.
And I know there's probably a lot of Mexican people that would like maybe be I don't know, not happy with the depictions of Mexicans in these movies, but the Italian westerns were had more Mexican heroes in them and Mexican good guys, and more stories told in Mexico than probably all of the westerns in America combined.
I tried to warn you that my two guests here belong to another belief. They rigidly observe the law of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I'd say that you forgive them and return some other time.
He's lucky he doesn't have brain damage. Oh, man. Yeah, great scene. So, like I said, if you want to see more of this film, you can. It's in the description below. Let me check my notes, see if there's anything else I want to add. Anything else that you should know? I think that about covers it. So, everybody, check out My Name is Trinity. They call me Trinity. Can't talk tonight. I'm telling you, man. Phil had me on his stream before, and at like 3:30 today, and I could barely talk, and I got caffeinated and still just mush mouth. Next week, I'm not sure what movie I'm doing next week. It might be Sabata. You know, might be good to go into a Lee Van Cleef picture for sure. And Frankie says, I got a copyright claim for playing a 100-year-old laugh track. That's insane. Yeah, you know what? I'm ready to say F it with YouTube. I've had it about up to here. You know, I'm ready to move to like Rumble or Odyssey or someplace like that. But at some point, we're going to have to make that exodus. The question is, you know, will our audiences come with us? But whatever, you know, you can't worry about this stuff. So let's see. Are there any other clips I wanted to play? No, I think that about sums it up. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate you. Smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, and ring-a-ding-ding-dong, the little bell for notifications. If it's not a bother, because, you know, I would never tell you what to do. Oh, you know what? Hold on a sec. Yeah, I gotta show this for the Bud Spencer, Terrence Hill fans in the house. If you didn't know, there is a Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill video game. You can get it on Steam. And they are currently working on the sequel. The original game is called Slaps and Beans. You know, two things you're going to see a lot of in any Bud Spencer, Terrence Hill movie. And they are currently working on the sequel. I think they have a Kickstarter campaign for it, actually. And it's like an old-fashioned arcade-style side-scroller. But what really makes it is that it has the sound effects from the movies, and, you know, that psh, and boom for the Bud Spencer hammer strike. And you can do combo moves, and you can actually switch between the characters mid-game. So if you're playing and you're just like, well, I want to play, you know, you're playing Terrence and you want to switch to Bud or vice versa, you can actually do it mid-game. But yeah, here, check this out. This is an indication of the love that's out there for these lads. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. There are mini games where you're driving in the dune buggy from Watch Out We're Mad. All of the scenarios are taken from their movies, and all the music is taken from the films as well. Most of the music by the DeAngelis brothers. Yeah, that's right. Like one of the power-ups is a plate, a skillet full of beans. Yeah, check that out if you get a chance. I'm pretty sure it's just like $10 or something like that on Steam. It's that game's a lot of fun, man, and definitely a must if you're a Bud and Terrence fan, which of course I am. Bud and Terrence for life. Anyway, I'm thinking that next week probably do a Lee Van Cleef movie, either Sabata or maybe Day of Anger. Day of Anger would be a good one because that's got Lee Van Cleef and my man Giuliano Gemma, who is one of the great Italian movie stars in my humble opinion, and is in a bunch of fantastic spaghettis. But anyway, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate you. And I will see you next week. And until then, peace, love, and pasta fazool.